The Eurovision Song Contest. It's a state of play. It's a state of play. Get all the updates. Join the conversation with Alesia and Mihal. Starting now. Hello, and welcome to the aftermath. This is our official last Eurovision 2025 State of Play. I'm Alesia and Mihal. If you've never been here before, welcome. This is your opportunity to like this video and to subscribe. We have so much stuff to talk about. Okay? So much stuff to talk about. And I'm ready to get into this. I'm ready to get into this, and I'm not going to do it alone because one, we're live and you all are here. Hello. Okay. Petar says we're ready. I hope you are. Bakur, after what happened this year with the televoting, I do not think countries that withdrew from the contest these past years will return. More countries will withdraw, actually. Well, guess what? We're going to talk about it. And I'm not going to be doing it alone. Oh, we've got someone from Serbia. Oh my goodness. Marco says we survived just barely. Thanos says, hello, Alesia. Do you think a change of the televote system should apply, a ban to Israel's participation, or both? You're in the right place. We're going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it now. We're going to talk about it. Summer. Are you a bot, Summer? Have you been here? Is this your first time? You're asking whether I like the Greek performance or not? Summer, girl, you got to catch up. I don't know. Something's got to happen. Okay, Loris, we've got Finland in the building. Philip, greetings from Czechia. Lighters. Okay. Peter, hello from Slovakia, currently from Krakow, Poland. Okay. Oh, we got another person from Poland. Oh, an ESC cat. Oh, hello. First stream I'm watching. Well, you came in for a good one. We're going to talk about a lot of things. So we're going to cover the overall show production, what we thought of our host. I told you I didn't really have high expectations for the host. So, that's kind of a good place to start for the most part. We're going to talk about the interval acts. We're going to talk about overall the vibe of this Eurovision season, the semifinal results, the grand final results. And yes, we're going to get into some of the controversy, because can we just get an easy year at Eurovision? No, we can't. That wouldn't be fun. All right. So I'm not going to be having this conversation alone. And so the first person I am going to be bringing to the stage, you might have seen her on X. You might have seen her on YouTube. You've probably seen her at the Ladies' Choice live streams all the way from the UK. It is Faith. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very interestingly. It's funny because as this stream is recording, I've actually uploaded a YouTube video about this whole conversation. So I'm very excited to get into it, and I'm very excited to be here.
Well, yes, you're not alone. We've got some other people to bring to the stage, and it's my longtime homie, friend from Ireland, currently calling Sweden home. It's Mihal. How you doing,
Hello.
Mihal?
Good evening. This is Stockholm calling. How are you all?
We're ready to get into this conversation, and of course, we could not be having this conversation, alone, because I do try to have a nice representative panel if I can. Not everyone's available, but I like to have a representative panel, and our Balkan representative is here. It's not that Balkan guy. It's the Balkan guy in the flesh.
How you doing?
I'm here, okay? Surviving. I've got a cat over. Well, not a cat, a kitten over here.
You have a kitten?
Thinking up the whole place. Oh yeah. It's a real thing. It just happened a week ago. Okay, but also what happened a week ago? Eurovision. Okay, overall thoughts on the show production. I'm going to be real. The show production I thought was very slick and beautiful. I thought it was very obvious that our girl Sasha was the creative director and like responsible for some of these interval acts. I think it was obvious. We got to see a lot of contemporary dance in the mix. Overall, I think the show looked really slick. What did y'all think?
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely stunning. And even like casual watchers, you know, like people I work with, my managers, even they messaged me and were like, wow, the stage is really beautiful this year. So it was nice that they recognize that outside of, obviously as Euro fans, we're used to seeing the stage every year, but it's nice that it actually stood out to casuals. And yeah, it was stunning. I think everyone was a bit funny about the airport scanner, as we call it, the big thing, but it actually worked really, really well. I'd like to see more I'd like to see more ambitious concepts in the future, as long as obviously it's be able to be pulled off, not like 2022. If they have the budget, I'd like to see cooler things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the production, as you say, it was slick, it was smooth. And I loved, the postcard. They used that big TV screen on stage. I thought that was stunning. I think when I was watching it with friends, we audibly gasped like, oh, it's beautiful. Like, it's so stunning. I will say I found the design of the stage, like the runway, I thought, maybe it's just me, but I thought it restricted them a little bit because they were all kind of doing the same thing, starting up top, coming to the bottom, finishing here. And I would like for next year something a little bit more dynamic for our staging, but that's just me.
I also kind of noticed like similar reactions from the casuals. Everyone seemed to love it, and everyone was super impressed by the production, the performances. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm overreacting by saying this, but these were some of the best performances overall that we have seen in Eurovision. I mean, it also came at a good time because the songs were maybe not quite on that level, so the performances kind of saved it. But production-wise, very, very impressive. And I mean, I personally did not expect it from Switzerland. So, I mean, they came to play, and I was super happy to see it.
Well, I've already seen a couple of comments about our host. I thought the hosting was good. I think the big trick about being a host is either you want to be a host that's sort of a star, or you want to be a host that is not too distracting. And I think that we had a nice balance of our girl Hazel being kind of the star, but then the other ones not being too distracting. But I have a note. Michelle, girl, I don't know that we needed her. I think at the end when she showed up, I did not have that Graham Norton moment where at the end you appear and it's like, ooh, okay, is somebody else coming into the mix and then they're just firing off. It seemed like she hadn't been there for the week. It didn't feel like, oh girl, we kind of missed you. Thank God you made it. It felt more additive, and I know she's got this great reputation as a presenter and stuff, but at that point, I think ultimately the design of the hosting didn't work out. Because it's not like she came in, with the gown kind of ready. It felt a little bit stunted. What did y'all think?
There was that feeling in the room as well. Julia from Hub was like, who is this? Like, what's this? Like, does she know? Was this a last minute thing? And I know you always like to talk about styling too, so I'll talk about it. I wanted more cohesion. She came up in this lovely rose gold dress. I would have liked those all to look like that too, but I'm just being picky. But we could have just done with the two for the final.
I was very pleasantly surprised because I heard not mixed things about Hazel, but I think people who were watching the rehearsals were like, oh my God, she's really chaotic. But some were painting it out like it's like chaotic bad, but like in a funny way. But then when I saw it on TV, I was actually, wait, she's actually like pretty funny. Like there were obviously naturally parts that's going to be a bit chaotic. Like it's a live show, it's always going to happen. But overall, she was really, really well liked. I know she's also very big in Germany and Switzerland, so people were very pleasantly surprised to have her. And I think from what I could tell with the casuals who are in Germany and Switzerland, they were actually very excited that we got exposed to Hazel because she's such a big name over there, and the whole world gets to enjoy her. And obviously, normally she doesn't do things in English, so I think I heard that she learned English especially for the for the role. I'm not sure how much I believe that because her English was excellent, but yeah, I thought, and I think Sandra was a very good, she had this seriousness, but she was also very playful and very quick on her feet. And I think they both really complemented each other. So I was very happy with the hosting. I think it was definitely an improvement from last year, which felt a bit more stoic.
Yeah, it's interesting because I I will say if I were to be picky about the production, I had a mandate and I was in this very chair a year ago. And I said, now, Switzerland, if we're going to do this, I need Celine. I need her beamed in. I was like, I don't want a pre-recorded thing, but I was like, we could keep her in the States and just beam in a performance. And I'm just going to tell you, the video message was cute. The video message was cute. I don't think she canceled last minute. I don't think she ever promised. I think that they were kind of like, look, here are the options. We have a slot ready for you to go if you want to do it. And the negotiations just happened. But I just want to tell y'all, the Olympics got Celine, okay? And my Eurovision Song Contest is on par with the Olympics, okay? So we could have had my girl in the building or being beamed in. Or being beamed in. Let's talk about the muting the audience, because let's just be real. I think a lot of performances suffered from the mutation of the audiences. And I actually, because a lot of folks know 2014 is one of my favorite years to like go rewatch. I also like 2013 as well for like a rewatch, just throwing it out there. And so many of the performances, you just feel the energy of the crowd. It makes people at home go, I want to be in the building. And when I looked back at some, because I rewatched the grand final with my daughter, and I was like, some of these performances are genuinely giving boring because we're not getting, the seventh member on stage, which is the audience. How do y'all feel about it?
I can start with this one. I 100% agree with you. A lot of the performances truly felt like something was missing, and you could really feel it with some of those songs like Sweden, for example, like Malta. I mean, Malta needed the audience. Let's be real; it was a part of the whole thing. And I think last year we saw such a highlight when it came to Croatia's performance, because Rim Tim Tagidim really exploded on the stage when you saw how hyped the audience was for it. And I feel like that's what Sweden was missing this year. Sweden needed that hype from the audience, and it really missed out on that because of the whole audience muting. And there were other performances that kind of suffer from this. So, I mean, if we do have a voice here, definitely next year, we need to move on from this. We need the audience. It's such a huge part, an integral part of Eurovision.
Yeah, it was given Vienna 2015, and I was like, oh, I thought we moved past that. It was just so, there's no word, just a sound, just ugh. Because like, I think back to Chanel, Turin 2022. I can watch that now and get goosebumps because of the, like, and that's what I love. I've even said, drop the live versions on Spotify for me to listen to. That's some of my favorite moments and memories. So when you're taking that away, that you're taking part of the experience, and some of them were really left up there sounding quite empty, flat, and it didn't serve a lot of them well. Like you said, Malta, we were supposed to sing "Cunt." That we were supposed to do that. We let her down. I'm sorry. No, we didn't actually. The EBU did. We were supposed to finish that line like we did with Latvia in 2022, and that's what I was excited for. And we missed out. I'm gutted. That's a big thing that I'm holding on to from this year, the muted audiences.
Yeah, I do think we missed something in the show. But you know what? I just want to take a little moment and zoom out a little bit. And let's just talk about the lead up to Eurovision 2025. And in these state of play conversations, I felt like in some of my early videos, I was like, do y'all even care? I was like, is anybody there? Hello? Echo, echo, echo. It was just like, if y'all don't care, just let me know, because I got a life. Mihal knows. I could be down to the winery, okay? I'm talking a Saturday afternoon. I got to be in this office, sitting up in this chair. That's real difficult for me. I'm just gonna say, I feel like the vibe, everyone was still shell shocked from last year and the vibe. I think there were a lot of people who felt conflicted in being a Eurovision fan because I do think people were making folks feel complicit. I think I've been pretty consistent on my channel being like, to me, you could tell me that Eurovision belonged to the EBU years ago. I'm like, it is a force of its own. Like, that's like telling people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that, like, it's just owned, like, Marvel is only owned and sort of dictated by Disney at this point, which is just not true. Like, the stuff is just so ubiquitous. And it is like just a part of life. And so with that said, I'm like, I have always been consistent that I'm like, I want to showcase like these artists. Like that's what it's really about at the end of the day. But yeah, the vibe was a little bit dry this year. I'm not going to lie. I think the Switzerland of it all, no offense, Switzerland. I think the Switzerland of it all wasn't helping, spice things up. We weren't in Spain, okay? We weren't there. Not saying that we needed to be there, but just saying, we weren't in Spain. And yeah, like I just think the vibe was a little bit, somber throughout the season. Faith, what do you think?
I agree. I think we were all kind of waiting for something to happen because I think I agree. We were kind of shell shocked from last year where literally in the like week or so leading up to the contest, it was just chaos. And there was a bit less of that this year. And I think also because I personally didn't think so, but because a lot of people deemed this like a week a year, I think people just didn't take as much interest in it. So it was a bit quieter, but I don't think, but there was definitely less drama. And it was nice to see that the contestants for the most part seemed to get along. There wasn't too much drama backstage. And then I think by the time of the final, I think people did enjoy it. I mean, up until a certain point, it was a very good show, but it just felt strange. It felt weird. It kind of felt like it feels weird that this is still happening and nothing's really been addressed properly. And like audiences are getting muted, but like there's nothing terrible happening, but there might be something terrible happening. It was really strange and anxiety inducing. And yeah, I don't think the chaos really hit until the night of the final. And I'm glad it ended the way it did. So yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about the results, but yeah, just Mihal, you kind of manage and you are a part of Eurovision Hub. Yeah, like how did you feel about the vibe? This is before we ended up in Switzerland, but the vibe kind of in the lead up to Eurovision's grand final this year.
Yeah, so from 24, I think, like to echo what you guys said, we were all a bit left with this bad taste in our mouth. And me personally, I've felt like high key disrespected. I'm like, how can you text something that was some teenage me was in my room in Europe listening to the CDs? That's my safe space. How are you now taking my safe space and not making me feel safe or comfortable or welcome and allowing all these things to happen? So I was still kind of feeling that. And I think the season, I didn't land so much. I got into it, but I found myself actively trying to take a step back. Imagine I'm taking a step back from something that once made me feel safe and comfortable. And I even said to you, Amir, like in our chat on Instagram, I was like, shit, even now after Saturday, sorry for language, after Saturday, I'm kind of like, I'm conflicted. And I think it might continue into 26 until or if we get some changes,
Yeah, I'm 100% in the same boat if I can continue off of that. I actually had a very unique situation this year where I wasn't able to attend in Switzerland, but I was in Brussels at a conference that had people from all over Europe. And 2 months before the conference, I had emailed the organizers asking them, since we're all here and we have our final party on Saturday, could we include like a Eurovision streaming? Some kind of like, because you're going to have 250 people from all over Europe. This is like a perfect opportunity for all of us to come with our flags to cheer. They denied my request. They said that our organization and our values don't align with Eurovision anymore. And to me, as someone who grew up with Eurovision, who it means so much to, and I feel like Eurovision has influenced European culture in such a significant way, to the point where it's so iconic and everyone knows about it. And I know we talk a lot about the EBU, but most Europeans don't even know what EBU is, but they know what Eurovision is. But I mean, this year, and obviously since last year, a lot of things have changed. I never would have imagined that I would be at such a cheerful conference and that they would refuse to play Eurovision. Something that throughout my childhood is some of like the most beautiful highlights of me growing up.
Wow. I mean, I'm not surprised, and American here, third party non-involved, aka but in the building with the rest of the world. I've always been very careful because I do, and I've written pieces about this. I fashion myself as a guest in this space. So like, when you come to somebody's home, you take your shoes off at the door. You tiptoe around. You don't go up in their fridge and pull food out of there. You didn't pay for nothing that was up in that fridge. Like there's a way to act as a guest in the space. And so I'm always really mindful, and I try to hold that a little bit, but also as someone who it's funny, I saw like a post from someone early, like at the kickoff of the season, of like, oh, Alesia talks like she's in the industry, but she's really not. I'm like, what industry do you think I'm in? Because my LinkedIn profile is public, and I am in the industry and I am a digital communications professional. And quite frankly, I make a lot of money doing it, and I've been doing it for quite some time. And there were just some real gaffes last year that made me a little bit like, okay, what is going on here? I found myself questioning not even so much of the dynamics, but I'm like, if I'm just looking at this from like a business sense, or just, a professional sense, I was like, there's some stuff going on in this ecosystem, a little bit unprofessional. But let's pivot. The semifinals happened. We don't have to rehash this much. But what was like the biggest shock? And I kind of want us to kind of like debate this a little bit, because like in sitting with some of the shocks, I'm gonna be real with you. Semifinal one, like Red Sebastian not making it, I'm starting to kind of feel like, was that really, like, I'm sitting with, was that really shocking? Because I remember when I first reacted to the song, I was like, I like it. I was like, but there's something blocking me from this, and I don't even know why, because I like the genre. And then I would say, from semifinal two, although I would have liked Czechia to have advanced, I recognize that wasn't Adonis's best, and Adonis could have done, better. And then I think even with Ireland's case, we talked about this after Ireland selected, that it was like, well, Like a Party wasn't probably even the strongest studio cut out of the mix. And I think with Australia, it was always on the cusp for me. But it did end up, just missing out. So looking back, I'm like, the only thing that really feels shocking is that the odds had it so wrong. And Mihal, as my witness, remember, I told you, I was like, I just feel like the odds are like really bunked this year. I was like, you report out on them and you mention them, but, I was like, I'm instantly feeling like there's something, like that. I was like, I think this is slightly off. So with that said, Mihal, I'm going to pass it to you. Anything that really stood out to you from the semis and the results there?
Yeah, I'll kick off by saying Latvia coming second in their semi. Who saw that coming? I love that, but I love that for them. Haven't they now got their best result in 10 years since 2015? I love that, and it just goes to show, and I love being put in my place. Sometimes we don't know what we're talking about, and I love that for us because it makes it less predictable, more enjoyable. So I'm glad the odds were wrong. And even when it comes to semi-final one as well, like Sweden not winning, we thought they were going to seal that semi, but Albania coming second in semi one. I think again, I liked this year how we thought it was one thing and it's the complete other. I will say Belgium did surprise me just with the new layout of the three screens. I thought, well, of these three, surely it's Belgium. I tried to keep away from rehearsal clips to restore a little bit of excitement and magic. But from what I was reading online, there was hype and excitement for Belgium. I was like, that's it. Book my flight. We're going to Antwerp. It's happening. And I was like, oh, I guess we're not. Cyprus was a big disappointment for me because, what's the secret? I want to find out. Do we even know? Do you know what was the secret? So there was that for me.
Faith?
I agree with you that looking back on it, it's like, okay, this kind of makes more sense. Like semi one, I'm pretty like, okay. Like I think at the time we were like, oh my god, Belgium not making it. But from what I could tell, the casuals just didn't really like, they liked it, but they didn't really respond to it. I think especially Belgium following Norway didn't help. Cyprus, I'm not surprised by at all. It didn't sound good on the night. I think a lot of my opinions changed like watching it there, because it's like, okay, I'm seeing what everyone else is seeing. Semi two, I'm just devastated by Australia. It was like my number 4. I'm still quite shocked by it. I guess I think running order didn't help it. And I think, as we were saying before, I think not having a live audience also really hindered it. I know they had the kind of like fake like cheering in the background, but it didn't help. I feel like when he like strips off his shirt, we would have had like a massive roar and it would have really helped. But yeah, so I think that's my big shock. And I think looking back on it now, like I think people were very shocked by Portugal, but now it's like actually it really stood out in a really beautiful way. I said, I know a lot of casual people who like it, you know, because Eurovision is watched by people who love all genres. And yeah, so I think looking back on it, like, I mean, I'm going to be biased about Australia, but there wasn't any massive, horrible losses. As we said with Adonis, it wasn't his best. The staging could have been better. It just didn't stand out. And he was in the tougher semi. But yeah, very pleasantly surprised by Albania and Latvia. And I've always said Latvia's staging is probably one of the best. It's stunning. And I'm glad that people saw that as well and voted for it.
I agree with what they said, but I will say, for me, my personal taste aside, I think that was the biggest surprise for me was actually Cyprus. And I know a lot of people had problems with it, problems with the song, maybe the staging, but at the same time, it was performing last in the running order. It was flashy enough. It did bring a concept. So even though like the song wasn't amazing, I still was quite certain it's gonna go to the final just because of the show of it. So I would say that's the one that surprised me. But all the others, I mean, Strobe Lights was the hardest hit for me, but I see why it didn't qualify. I see why it would not connect with the casuals. So it didn't surprise me as much, even though it was like one of my personal favorites. And then in the second semifinal, for me, no surprises. Initially, I had Australia as a lock qualifier, but as soon as I saw the rehearsal, I was like, oh, no, not anymore. And like we talked about before, I think Australia suffered from no audience sounds, because I really think he should have and would have connected with the audience better. Czechia, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it didn't surprise me. I never actually saw it as a qualifier. So overall, I would say Cyprus is the biggest surprise. But just like they said, I'm super happy about Albania and Latvia being second places. I wish that translated over to the grand final, because I think that would have been epic to see.
Well, y'all, I think enough time has passed, and feel free to react to this in the comments. But I'm gonna be real with y'all. This was not a strong year. I'm not fighting with anybody about it. This was not a strong year. And the people who like to sit up and say, oh, but it's kind of strong because then everything's mid and then we get to decide, baby, how many of these songs are we listening to? How many of these songs? I haven't picked up the playlist, not once. I'm listening to some dry old songs from the 2000s, okay? I put on some leggings this week and a blousey cutoff tee and boots. Okay? I have had a whole personality transplant since Eurovision. I am not listening to these songs. Now, I will tell you, I haven't gotten into my summer playlist yet, and I do have vacation coming up at the end of June, so some of these will be making a return. Okay. And Claudia came out with a follow-up track, and baby, it's on the summer playlist. Okay. I'm just saying, it's on the summer playlist. But I mean, for real, y'all, this was not a strong year. This was not club banger, exemplary track after the other. Am I crazy?
I mean, it's not the strongest year, but I wouldn't say it's a weak year. I mean, I'm talking about the final. Maybe I'm jumping the gun a bit, but semi-finals, yeah, I can kind of get it. But I think the final was really exciting. I know a lot of my friends who are casuals thought it was a really exciting show. It didn't feel like it dragged. I think the running order really did it justice. And then with the production, I think the production and the running order just made it all come together. I think the songs themselves, yeah, I can see, but the final itself, I think, was a very enjoyable final. I think it's a very rewatchable final. No one I know who watched it got bored, and I know I have had friends that have gotten bored. It was, so yeah, that's my opinion. It's not the strongest year for songs, but I think the final came together in the end, which is what I thought would happen, because I had a lot of trust in the Swiss, and they pulled it off. So I think they managed to make lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that, because when I watched it with a group of friends, some locals, as we say, and this guy says, "Is there any bad ones?" And I'm like, "Oh," because sometimes I'm negative, I'm protective of the contest.
Okay, but these locals are Swedish locals. That don't count. They have Melody Festivalen. It doesn't count.
The last time he watched Eurovision, he said there was an astronaut on stage. I was like, "Oh, pet, we have a lot of catching up to do with you." But the fact someone said, "Is there any bad ones?" And I'm like, "Okay, you're being nice to our little contest. You're welcome here." But speaking of streaming, in the past few years, I haven't been streaming so many songs. And I think maybe because the contest is more visual than ever, more about what's happening on stage. So therefore, I'll rewatch a lot more, but I'm not streaming. But I will say Serving and Hallucination are in my top most replayed. But in general, yeah, I'll agree. The longevity of these songs is not what it used to be. They're more rewatchable.
Erica says, hold on, maybe not strong, but definitely better than 2022. Ooh, baby, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one. Because this is what I will say. I think 2022 was similar to this year sonically, meaning that you had the bunk and then you had the really good ones. I actually think that 2022, I had more of a serving of the really good ones, not just sonically, but also visually than I had this year. Because this year, I feel like there are some songs studio cut wise. I'm like, yeah. But then when I watched it live, I was like, oh, we could have done more. We could have done more here. Amr, what do you think?
I mean, maybe this is just a testament to my feelings towards Eurovision this year, but what I was truly missing was emotional commitment towards the entries. I felt like there were some decent songs, but for me, every single Eurovision year, there's a few songs that I feel so strongly about that I'm like, I will fight wars for these songs to do well in the final. This year, yeah, I had my favorites, but I was like, oh, they place where they place. I didn't have that emotional commitment. I was tweeting about that, and a lot of people said they feel the same. Now, I don't know if that is because of the song quality or whatever was happening with Eurovision this year, but I did notice a lot of people are feeling the same, and it's a bit concerning about this year. But overall quality, I mean, it's not the worst, definitely not the worst, but it could have been a lot better for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there were a couple of songs I was like, I will be in the trenches for, but I feel like for me, it wasn't just songs that I was in the trenches for, it was artists. Like, I'll be real, the Netherlands song, I was in the trenches for Claude, okay? Because wasn't nobody else about to have my babies back, okay? So I needed, to show up for Claude. But I did have a couple of songs I could fight people for. I was fighting for Ich Komme. I was fighting for Zerm. We all know that. Zerm. Okay. I had some, but there were songs that I even admitted, like, that's why I couldn't even put together a top 10, because I was just like, because all y'all gonna beat me up and be like, oh, but this one's not better than this. And I would probably be like, you're right. I just like it more. How about that? But like I don't have nothing else to say. Like, you win. I just listen to it more. AKA like a party. All right, let's talk about these grand final results. I think I found Nush's doppelganger in Annapolis, Maryland. Shout out to that girl, because I was like, you look very familiar to me. And so I was talking to her, Nush, and so I told her, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, like, my Eurovision life flashed before my eyes as the results. I think by the time we got to like France's points, I was like, oh God, it was just everything. I sensed myself walking down the streets of Stockholm, Sweden, with Lemonade playing in the background. I had flashes of, freezing my butt off in the press room in 2022. Like, it was just like all of these things just flashing before my eyes, because I was like, what's going to happen? But I will admit, I will say the quiet part out loud. I did have the moment where I just was kind of like, well, go on and let him win. And then let's see. Because at that point, I really was just like, well, what are y'all going to do now? And I kind of wanted to see. I wanted to see American, third party, not involved. Open the floor to the panel, grand final results.
I'll jump in. I'll say, because that's what we said on the phone right after the result. Alesia calls me, how are we feeling? And I'm like, let them. As you said, what are you going to do now? We warned you. Don't say we told you so, because we have numerous times. And I just wanted to see what would happen. Like, you made your bed, lay in it, sleep in it, enjoy it, because we won't be there. And I also joked that I would go and go to the Austrian embassy the next day, because I felt Austrian. We all did that night. That was the savior. But I've said to people, we shouldn't need to be saved. We shouldn't have been in that position where we needed to be saved, and that felt unfair. That I was disrespect. That I was like, this could have been avoided by all costs. So the results, happy that Austria is hosting, happy now that today JJ spoke out about it, happy that, we're getting this wave of momentum happening. But back to results, and I'll pass it on, and then we can dive into jury and televote, I guess.
I think we had a full sense of security last year, because Israel came fifth, and because last year it was pre-season a very big worry, because we're like, we don't know how the televote's going to go. We don't know that if the jury's like her, we're screwed, because she's going to get a high televote. And so I think this year there really wasn't much talk about it happening. We were like the song, in my opinion, objectively isn't as good. The staging isn't the most impressive. Like, there's a lot of televote favorites in general that could take points from her. We were like, it's probably not going to happen. And this is what's happened, is that I think because the juries this is the thing, like, watching the jury results was exciting, because they were very split. Like, this is the most split they've been in a very long time.
But could I say, I wasn't mad at it.
No,
this split jury result, because I've seen the comments online where people are like, oh, we can't have the jury all over them. I mean, what were those jury scores? I was like, low-key applicable to the year that we had this year. I mean, if we just want to like pair it out a little bit, I mean, if you're looking at the jury ranking, Austria coming first, completely a possible thing. Switzerland coming second, completely possible. Then France, then Italy, then the Netherlands, low-key, then Sweden. I feel like we've been saying all season that those were the jury songs. Those are the songs and the genres that typically do well with juries. So to me, I was like, the jury results actually made sense to me. And some people are like, oh, but Albania, we knew they were going to play them. Come on. We knew it was going to happen. So that fit What did surprise me, though, was Estonia coming so high with the jury because, not one note in the on the pitch key. Not one. Not a one. Not one. The whole thing. It just, and I mean, and was that because sometimes I'll give them kudos because it's like, okay, well, the staging was like immersive or something like that. It really wasn't. Faith, keep going. I'm sorry, girl.
I can't remember what I was saying. I agree.
You said the juries was all over the place. You were like,
juries
yeah, with
was
the
all over the place. And then, because Israel came 15th in the juries, they came 15th and they almost won. And I thought, I can't lie, when it got to the final two, I was thinking, I think Israel might have done it, because I'm glad I'm wrong. I had a feeling that Austria wasn't going to do well in the televote. And because there was, like I said, like even the televotes were a bit all over the place, I was like, I don't know how much. Some people did the maths, but like I was thinking, I think this is it. I think they might have gotten less than 100. That was a very real possibility. Fortunately, they didn't, and I'm very glad I'm wrong about that. But I was sat there thinking, like, it was like you, where my life was flashing before my eyes, because it's like, this is like low-key my whole personality. Like, what am I going to do now? It was a big, I know it sounds really crazy, but it was like this moment of like, what am I doing with my life? Like it was like, I have to find something else to do now. So I wasn't hoping they'd win because of that, in a very, very selfish reason. And my friends were also crying. It was actually quite upsetting, like legitimately. But I've seen it on TikTok a lot. It's like, what would they have done had Israel won? And I have a feeling I know what they would have done. But
could I just correct this one comment? So the juries did not choose Estonia as the most fun entry. They chose Sweden. They did. Sweden was the highest of the fun songs. So they did, which was, I think, what we tracked that would happen. So I just wanted to correct that.
I guess what I can say is earlier I mentioned that I wasn't emotionally committed to this year's contest, but during those 4 minutes, I was stressing. I mean, when I tell you I was stressing, I was there in the bar and I was shaking, and those 4 minutes felt like 4 hours. And I had so many thoughts fly through my head, and I've spoken to fans. Everyone kind of had a similar experience where all of us were like, what if that happens? What if that happens? What if that happens? What am I going to do with my life? What is this going to result in? And so many things flashing in my head. And overall, I mean, I am very glad, obviously, that Austria won, but I will lie if I say that I also didn't have a slight thought in my head, like, let's see them win. Let's see what happens then. It's just, but so many different thoughts.
A new day will rise.
Oh,
anyway, let's talk about it. I mean, because following up, I mean, we have tons of broadcasters kind of making the FOIA requests as saying, like, we need to see our results. I think I posed the question just sort of like, I mean, let me say this. The EBU was very clear last year that for any changes to happen, it would have to come from the participating broadcasters. They would need to hear it from the participating broadcasters. I think that there's another pathway that I'm not going to share on this call. But I do think there's another pathway to that as well. But I do think it is through the broadcasters. It seems like enough of the broadcasters are kind of speaking up now. Do we think it's going to make a difference?
I think I'm trying not to be in denial, but the things that have been happening the last few days have given me a bit of hope, especially Spain speaking out. Spain purposely got a fine. They literally were like, don't care about your fine. We're going to do what we want. And the EBU do not want to lose Spain. Because I think what happened last year in terms of the broadcasters going to the EBU, it was mainly, I think, Slovenia and Ireland. And unfortunately, I don't think that the EBU gave a toss about them. But now it's like, okay, we've got Belgium, we've got Spain, we've got Portugal, we've got the Netherlands, we've got, actually, I don't think Portugal, but it's happening. There's a very big thing. And I mean, I mentioned it in my YouTube video. I've done a lot of research. The votes, they can't ignore the discrepancies in the votes. It's ridiculous. I get, people could vote for who they want, but it's like, this is completely unprecedented, and this is the same thing is going to keep happening, and it's not fun and it's not fair. We know what's going to happen next year. We know what's going to happen the year after. It's basically, as someone else said in a comment, it's going to be who wins the jury or Israel. Like, that's what it's going to turn into. It's going to be who can beat Israel, and that's not fair. So
could I just highlight? Yeah. Could I highlight this comment? So, Alesia, it would be interesting to have a guest that comes with sensible arguments for Israel's participation instead of this consensus that doesn't make think out of the box. Well, Frederick, if you've been here before, I think I have actually said, and I said this on my channel last year, and I've said the same thing, and I am consistent with it, and I've said this about Russia. If the EBU can make up votes for a country, why can't the EBU select the representative for one of the countries? You then get the buy-in of the people. So I present the Russia situation. I wouldn't mind Russia participating at Eurovision if you get, like amnesia. Just because someone lives in a place or is from a place doesn't mean that they agree with everything that their government is doing. And like I said, and I said this last year, and this was before the song came out with Israel. I said, look, if y'all want to send a song with a girl dipping and doing it on stage, talking about I'm in love with somebody, and this is a love song or whatever, then I'm kind of like, okay. But if we are sending songs that are very clearly speaking about shit that just happened, I find that in poor taste. Also, there is the dynamic of, well, at Eurovision, the agreement sort of is if you win, you host. We are obviously not going to go to Israel. So if you know that you're not going to be there, then why even participate if you feel like you can't holistically do it? And even that aside, where people then bring up the argument, well, they'll just get the second place or somebody else, from the big five. The next up person in line is Germany. That's what the streets have been saying. Then we just have it there. Well, guess what another aspect of the Eurovision show is, and the production is showcasing the culture and the country that previously won. Do we really feel that would be in the best taste to do that, given, I would say kind of the consensus of most world leaders at this point? So there's your sensible argument. You're welcome.
I would also like to add one more sensible argument, at least from my side. I mean, I really hate to say it, but I thought Hurricane last year was objectively one of the best songs. And I could understand why it got such a high score, because I thought it was a good song. And there were a lot of people that really liked it. This year, I didn't see anyone loving the song. But suddenly it won the televote, and it won it by far. And you can look at Spotify stats right now. No one is streaming it. So if we're talking about sensibility, I mean, last year, it kind of made sense. That fifth place, I understand it. Even though I don't support the song, I don't support the country, I understand the result. This year, it makes no sense. And I mean, as Faith mentioned, there were so many voting discrepancies compared to viewership. I mean, it objectively doesn't make sense.
Well, we'll see. So thank you, Tin Ruza. Thoughts on the Martin mess? Well, which Martin? I think we know which Martin you're talking about. Martin, because there's a new Martin in town, Marty Green. Okay, anyway. So also Germany saying they will pull out if Israel is out. So happy to see main news broadcasts in the EU mention this. So starting with the Martin Osterdahl piece, I think there was something that came out in some court proceedings, because doesn't Sweden, they have like a law, like you have to be a resident to like have property and stuff. So apparently Martin said, well, I'm gonna be back, I guess, because I'm not going to be working at the EBU. Baby, if I was Martin last year, I would have quit. I talked about that in my video last year. I would I would not wait for them to get rid of me. I would just go on. And to be fair to Martin Osterdahl, I think that there are actually things of his tenure at Eurovision that he could actually say were good. Thank you for the rest of the world vote. It's a moneymaker. It's like cha-ching for you. There were changes that happen, under his time frame. But yeah, what do y'all think about this, I guess, rumored thing that he'll be out? And I mean, honestly, the Germany thing, I think that people were talking about that last year. I mean, yeah, I'm turning it over to the Europeans on this one.
I'm not surprised about the Martin thing because I read through as part of my research. It's like a roadmap. It's basically so the EBU did an investigation last year and they investigated everything that happened in Malmö, and then they made a roadmap which had 9 key recommendations. One of them really emphasized the supervisors, the superiors, and making sure that there's enough communication. And it basically implied that if they're not if someone isn't doing their job, they will investigate it. And because I think they're trying to, not that it happened this year, but I think they're trying to make everyone happy in that sense. Like so I think this might apply this year. It's clear that Martin isn't well liked at all, unfortunately. I think from what I heard, I don't want to be rude, but like within the EBU, I think people don't necessarily want him there. He's kind of like this power head, and like people see him and just have a bad vibe, which is why they kind of hid him a little bit this year. But yeah, I'm not surprised at all. And I think it would be wise for him to leave, and he can focus on his book career, being an author. He can so yeah, I think it's about time he left. I think he can hang his hat up and maybe do it before he kind of gets forced out, because if Israel won this year, I don't even want to imagine the stuff that would have been on his plate.
Yeah, I bet he's breathing a huge sigh of relief. Like, that's another year done, but we can't keep going like that, which is why I hope and think that this fast response from the Spanish Prime Minister, it escalated straight there. We didn't start. He and Spain, like, I'm Spanish now, like, they really did take it there. And I think now the broadcasters are coming out now in force. And, there was that, I don't know if it's true or not, about Germany saying they would withdraw if Israel weren't allowed to take part. But then I think Spain should counter that and say, well, we're going to withdraw if they do take part. And I think, what do they do when 2 Big Five members are, what happens when they're going head to head? So that'll be an interesting development, but it just feels, Alesia, you asked, how do we think something will happen? It could just be me, but it feels like there's a bit of hope, more hope. The fact that there was Sky News, BBC World News talking about it. Finally, here in Sweden, Aftonbladet have slowly changed the narrative a bit on the whole stance on Israel. So it feels like there's a real change now happening. And I really hope it's for the best, and it's well overdue.
Yeah, there's definitely some momentum that's happening, and I feel like we are all noticing that. But at least from my side, for me, I'm a bit scared to hope. I don't know if that makes sense. I obviously I want positive changes, and the contest needs them. We need them as a fandom as well. But it is a bit scary to hope. But I guess we're gonna have to wait and see, and in any way, look how we as content creators can contribute towards this change.
Well, that leads perfectly into my next piece. And so we'll do like a nice round robin and say, let's just close it with like, what are your Eurovision 2026 hopes? And maybe even what do you predict for the EBU and Eurovision in the coming year?
I do hope that we have, and I remembered, I think GJ mentioned it in a stream, we have someone fresh and young and like new-ish, like kind of getting the chance to take on the role of producing the contest. And I think change is needed, and I think it would be nice to like have a new perspective on it. I'd be surprised if they just straight up banned Israel. But at the very least, I'd like to see some changes made to the voting, and I've got some theories as to what they could do. It's a lot more tricky than people think to just be like, oh, fix the voting. It's like, yeah, but how? And how do you stop people from just mass voting? I think one of my main points is just stop, like, limit the amount they can advertise a song, because Israel spent a lot. So yeah. And that's not fair on the other countries. So I think just fairness across the board, an even playing field.
Yeah, I'll hop on that with regards to the voting. I mean, we saw the huge differences now with 100% semis leaving. Not so many there's not so many jury friendly songs for the juries to pick from. Therefore, they get a lot of the points. Therefore, we're seeing either the jury winner being the winner, or as Faith or someone said, it could just be Israel or the jury winner in future. So I think that's something to consider as well for the future.
Yeah, for sure. I guess my hopes for next year, again, would also be just like Dave said. I would like to maybe see a winner that is not a jury winner, someone that people feel super passionate about. But with that, like some comments have mentioned, better communication from the EBU. I think that's a must. I mean, from a PR perspective, and Alesia, I'm sure you understand, what EBU is doing is just at this point unprofessional, and it's like they don't even care about their own PR and their own marketing. So we need to see an improvement there. And then lastly, just I'm hoping for some positive vibes. I don't know if that's too much to ask for at this point, but I'm hoping that Eurovision is going to go back to what it was when I was a child. Yeah.
Well, see, I think that that's a beautiful note to end on. I want to thank my panel for coming through today. Thank you, Mihal from Eurovision Hub. Thank you, the Balkan Guide. Thank you so much. As always, Faith, thank you. And people will be following you. Y'all, it's been a crazy year. It's been a crazy year. We've come to the end. We've come to the end. And guess what? I'm not going anywhere, but I am going to be going somewhere for the next couple of months. That's called vacation, y'all. And I encourage you to do it too. Go outside, go on a trip, spend some time with your friends, go and sit outside with an Aperol Spritz and some charcuterie. Have a picnic, listen to some music that is not Eurovision music. This is our contest. But guess what? We have lives. Go live it. If you haven't already, please like this video and please do subscribe. I will have more content coming for you. So please, if you haven't already, like this video and subscribe. Thank you to everyone for watching. Bye.